Okay, so in this segment of our meetup, my colleague Minerva and I will be telling you about how we can build beautiful dashboards using visual themes in Spotfire. And I believe a number of you are familiar and expert users in Spotfire. However, if you are relatively new to Spotfire, you can actually customize the look and feel of your dashboards that you built in Spotfire to something beautiful, something which also could conform to the look and feel of your corporate identity. So we'll be talking about that, how to use different, how to apply a different look and feel to your dashboards in Spotfire, apart from the default. And now, how do we do that? So we do that through this concept called visual themes. And in Spotfire, it comes with two default themes, the light theme and the dark theme. So whenever you open a new analysis or create a new analysis in Spotfire, by default, it gives you the light theme. You can also easily switch to the dark theme. And then there's also one thing called the custom theme within Spotfire that you can configure. And this is what we'll be talking about today. And to do that, we'll go through some basic concepts in what makes up an analysis. And when you open Spotfire, this is what you will see. This is not the actual Spotfire UI, but then this is what makes up a page within Spotfire. So on top, you have the tabs with your page navigation area. And at the bottom, this is your visualization area where all your visualizations go. Each of these blue box is your visualization. In each visualization, you have a title, and then you have the content. Now, the reason that we are talking about this is that this is a model within Spotfire of the components. What's within a component? Okay, so each one of this is a component, and every component consists of a similar group of elements. You have your border, you have the space between the container of the component and the component and the border itself, which is called the margin. The actual content is within here, and then the space between it and the border is a padding. And then every border will have a radius to it. You can set the radius to 0. You can set it to something. This is what explains the elements, say for a visualization title, and then you see that the dotted lines here correspond to the content. Like this blue dotted line is the content of the visualization, and the red dotted line is the content of the visualization title. So the reason that we are going for this is because these are the elements that you can control within custom themes in Spotfire. In Spotfire, in the toolbar, you see this button, the black and white button, and it is where you can select the theme you want to apply, the light one or the dark one or the custom one. And then if you go to edit custom theme, this is where you get a setup window like this, and you can see that the tabs in this window actually corresponds to those elements, the components that you see on the page here, your page navigation area, your visualization area, your visualization general, which is this general area here, and then visualization titles. And you can see that this is the background color, the padding, the borders, the corner radius, which corresponds to these elements here that you can adjust. So once you have adjusted this, this is how you set up a custom theme, which my colleague Minerva will be showing you later on. You can then save this custom theme and share it with other people to reuse. Similarly, you can also take a custom theme that has been configured by a colleague and use it, apply it within your Spotfire analysis. And the way these custom themes are shared is through a DXP file. So you simply save your analysis with the custom theme as a DXP file, either as a file or save it to the library, and somebody else can pick it up later and apply it to their analysis. So at this point, I'll hand over to my colleague Minerva. We'll be showing you how to use custom themes in Spotfire, and then I'll jump back in again and talk about the use of colors in color schemes, and then we continue with the demo. So I'll hand it over to Minerva at this point.
Thank you, Chai. I'll go ahead and share my screen. So as Chai said, the purpose of this demo was to align Spotfire with your corporate visual scheme in a manner that's reusable, modular, and seamless. So reinforcing all that Chai just said right now, I'm going to show you a hands-on version of exactly that. So here's my tab ground zero. This is how Spotfire looks in Field. If you just open it up and put in sample data and, you know, have a dashboard created within 4 clicks. But this is not what Spotfire has to offer in terms of visual harmony. If there is a coloring scheme or if there is a certain set of visual practices that your organization conforms to, Spotfire can make it happen and make beautiful dashboards with it. So let's go ahead and look at the Edit Custom Theme menu. As you see, I have the default white theme, and when I open this menu up, I have a grayed out theme. That's because I adjusted the few properties that were mentioned earlier. These properties can greatly enhance or make your visualization look like something you wanted to. But in addition to it, you don't have to go through this process iteratively. You don't have to go to one tab or one DXP, select a few colors from this, and then have it implemented in your visual. You can have a master theme created and apply it to individual DXPs. So that is something that we will see just now. The idea behind this tab was to show that Spotfire, right out of the box, does have a group of coloring schemes for certain variable types, and these schemes have been built keeping in mind what a user would best perceive in colors and visuals. For example, Spotfire conforms to the rules of 3. This is a visual best practice rule that states that at an average, human beings can see 3 shades up and 3 shades down for a given gradient in a color. And these visual practices are incorporated right out of the box. So having covered a few basics, let's go ahead and see an example. Now this is a dashboard that a colleague of mine created. It's a beautiful dashboard that tends to show, you know, KPIs and high-level overview of an academy. And what I love about it is that it conveys information beautifully. What I don't love too much is the fact that there isn't a harmony in the color scheme across tabs. Now this might suit some users and it might not be as appealing to some others. So to rectify that, I just made a few tweaks and made this theme look a little more subdued, a little more mellow, and uniformly colored in all tabs. Oops, sorry, that was not a part of the visual. So the idea here is that you can have this particular theme to translate to our theme right here. So let's go ahead and do that. If I go to the Visual Themes tab and say Import from File, I can go ahead and import this exact DXP. This is not a special file type. It's a DXP file that puts in the borders, padding, margins that you have set from a previous file into your Spotfire visualization. Now this one says there are clashes in font settings. We don't mind that. And as you see, a few changes were instantaneous. Padding changed, the titles were colored differently, and in general, the look and feel changed. Now you might ask that the visualization colors have not changed yet. And that's because there are 2 parts to customizing the DXP to look different. The first one is themes, and the second one is the visual coloring aspect. Before we delve into that, Chai will be covering a little theoretical aspects about what kind of variables exist in Spotfire. So Chai, I will move on to the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Minerva. All right, so colors. Well, I would say that colors are to visualizations what writing style is to writing. basically you use colors to bring your audience into the story of your visualization. And in Spotfire, it gives you various options to configure your color schemes depending on the types of variables that you are using, either categorical variables or continuous variables. And I'll go through some examples here. First, we have categorical variables. So Spotfire lets you color your variables by category. So on top, you can see example where we have one color for male, one color for female. And then also with categorical variables, Spotfire lets you assign colors by rules. So at the bottom, we have the revenue, a bar chart showing the revenue of 6 different products. And then the message that we want to show here, or the question we want to ask here is, how is product E performing compared to other products? So we are just setting a color to product E, and we leave the colors of the other products to gray, so that product E stands out, and you can see immediately how is the revenue of product E compared to others. Next slide, please. Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on into continuous variables, there are a couple of different options available to set up the color scheme. So first, you can use a gradient color scheme for continuous variables. The example on top given here is a plot for variable importance in creating predictive models. So in running the model, we can tell which predictors are the most important in predicting, let's say, whether somebody will buy a certain category of product. So we just set the darkest color, darkest shade to those most important variables. The higher the score, the most important variable is, and then the gradient goes down with the least important variables colored as the lightest. So in this case, you can see at a glance which are the most important variables in your predictive model. And then we can also assign color to a range of values for continuous variables. Example, in Net Promoter Score, so a lot of us will often get this survey question, how likely is it that we'll recommend a business to our friend? So you given a scale of 1 to 10 to answer. So while this answer that you give is not actually the Net Promoter Score itself, but it's used to gauge how engaged, how much of a promoter or a detractor a customer is. So from 9 to 10, if your answer is 9 to 10, you are a promoter of the business. If you are 7 or 8, you are just a passive, pretty neutral. And if you are 1 to 6, your answer is 1 to 6, you are basically a detractor of the business. And then here we are assigning colors according to the range of values of how a customer answer the question. Next slide, please. So we have more examples of color schemes that can be applied to continuous variables in Spotfire. Similar to categorical variables, we can assign colors by rules. The example given here is which products do not meet their revenue target, and those are colored in red. So this bar chart is actually the same bar chart as the previous one with the 6 products that I showed, that one which we're interested in how is product E performing with respect to others. And note that because we are trying to answer a different question, we are trying to bring the audience attention to something different, we can do so by applying a different color scheme to the bar chart. And then at the bottom, we give an example here where continuous variables can also be treated as categorical variables, and then we color the values by unique values. What we have here is the number of units sold of a product over 3 years, actually 2.5 years for every month, and then we color the lines by the year of the data. So the darkest color is 2017, and then the blue gets lighter as we go back in time in the year. And then next slide, I've discussed the different examples of applying color schemes to categorical variables and continuous variables. And similar to using custom themes, once you have set up your color schemes, you can save them, and then share them with others. Color schemes are saved as a file with extension DXP color. So for each visualization, you have the properties panel, and colors are controlled in the colors page of this properties panel. And then there's the button that you see that is from which there's a dialog box coming down. That's where you click for you to either open an existing color scheme that somebody else has defined from the library or from a file, or to save the color scheme that you have defined and share it with other people as a file, or save it to the library. Okay, so I'll pass it back to Minerva, who will show you more about the hands-on approach in applying color schemes in Spotfire.
Thank you, Chai. All right, now that there's information and a little knowledge about the continuous and categorical variables that Spotfire has to offer, let me go ahead and apply a color scheme to this chart. So right now, I'm going to open a color scheme from File. As mentioned, we are going to apply the categorical color scheme, and we're going to match colors only. When we do this, you see that sets of oranges and grays show up. The most asked question here happens to be that, all right, now I have it on one, do I individually have to go to each categorical visualization and add, a color to it? And the answer is no. You can go right here, you can go to your colors tab, and right now, the idea is to go here and apply it to all kinds of visualizations that exist in your DXP file. Remember, a coloring scheme for continuous variables works for continuous variables, and the one for categorical works for categorical. Now, I have the option to include all visualizations nonetheless. They are arranged for a tab, and you can see the kinds that exist inside. Just for the sake of convenience, I will go ahead and add everything into the mix and show the nuances of doing that. So when I do add it, immediately you see that there are changes that are reflected in the pie chart right here. But also, they're probably not the best selection of colors. You can mix them around. Right here, the line chart just doesn't look good enough, because you obviously don't want grays and blacks to depict changes in colors. And that's because you're dealing with a different coloring scheme. It's continuous variables in the mix. And also, like here, the continuous variables just haven't changed. So the solution to go here, our go-to solution here would be to have a separate coloring scheme for line charts, so that you know that these variables translate into something more meaningful in this visualization. For the part right here, there is a very easy and quick fix that is pretty similar to the one you saw. So I'm going to go here, and I see that my present coloring scheme is based on a gradient mode. Out of the box, Spotfire offers a few gradients. These might or might not be useful in your organization. So after you make the coloring scheme, you just go and do something from File. This is something that I already have made. So I select this, and you see this is similar to the master DXP that I had customized earlier, and it reflects right here. So keeping this in mind, the first question that arises is, okay, now I know how colors can go in different visualizations, but what kind of colors do I choose? So yes, there's an option to go inside and have a trial and error setup, but that's very unproductive, and often your eye can't gauge the different gradients as effectively as computers can. So my go-to is this site. There are a bunch of others like this, so you can choose your favorites. And what it does is, given a hex value for a color, or given an RGB gradient for a color, you can go inside and generate a few color schemes around that color. So I'm choosing a pale blue right now, the light pale blue, and I get a different gradient of colors right here. I could choose, let me go back here. I could, my idea was to choose different gradients inside this yellow, or different gradients inside this green. and I could do that as well. Now, how does a hex value translate to the Spotfire color scheme? That's a very easy fix. For example, right now I'm dealing with this value. So what I can do here is go to this and I copy this value right there. I go back to my Spotfire visualization and I go to this particular tab, which isn't looking very impressive. And I want to change this value. So I go here and I can go ahead and put in my hex value to translate to this color. Often, we have a few kinds of visualizations that require an RGB gradient. And to deal with that color scheme, you have to have the RGB values put in. So I have to move this a little here. What I had done, I have to do this just because I had a little fact box showing me exactly the colors that I wanted to translate. Here it is. So let's go ahead and do it with this pie chart instead for demo purposes. So I go to my colors tab. I want to shift this orange to a different blue that I have saved in my RGB tone. So the easier way would be, yes, I'll go to a particular value here, but the other way of doing this could be I could go here and right now it's a yellow, so I could go here, see my alternative shade, say I want this exact shade, and I go and pick my RGB value. What I had done in my Spotfire visualization was to have these RGB values inside my chat box so that I didn't have to go to and fro in tabs, and I could put 168 for R, 208 for D, and 219 for B. I know this is tedious, but if you want an exact match, it's a one-time investment for a particular variable type that can be replicated onto different visuals without much hassle, either through scripts or through the buttons, pressing different buttons in a DXP. So that's something that can be reused and is modular. So let me go back and go to the browser and show you the color brewer scale. So the color brewer scale is built by a very prominent cartographer, and this, if you see closely, this is the color palette that we use. Like the tab that I showed earlier, the color brewer scale has a few palettes that synchronize very well with each other and look very good on a DXP. And these can be used. I have one tab open in my target DXP right here. Now, as you have gotten used to the orange, gray, and yellow scheme of things in this, the palette also had a different scheme for changing one shade of gray to blue, and this was very easy to do. I just had to go in my theme and change the gradient from gray to blue, and it was put into my visualization just then. So that's it for the hands-on part. I will pass the control back to Chia-Yui.
All right. Thank you, Minerva. All right. So we've gone through some examples and live demo of how to use visual themes and color schemes. Let me also bring up one example of how typical users the visual themes ourselves. So our team does post a lot of content onto the typical community exchange, and then we have created our own theme for our DXPs. So for example, templates and the templates that Venkat showed earlier on. So we apply this uniform theme to these sets that we publish onto the exchange. And talking about the exchange and the community, so we cover custom themes today, we cover color schemes. There are actually a number of themes that you can download from the community today. I have the link here, and there are also color schemes that you can download from the community. So I'll bring you over to this community page, and if you follow the link on the slides, which will be shared with the audience later on, you come to this page for visual design best practices for typical Spotfire and that will bring you directly to this section on custom themes, and you can click on this to download those themes, and as well as the color schemes. Another place where you can get custom themes is this website called exchange.ai. So this is a website that belongs to one of our partners, TIBCO's partner. And on this page, it's basically an online store, an app store. So you go to explore this store. So they'll bring you to a catalog of items in the store. So I can narrow down my search to Spotfire and to Spotfire themes. You can see that there are 14 listed. So some of these themes are paid, but there are quite a number of them that are free for download as well. And you can look for one that you like and then download them from this website. Okay. And we do also have the link to exchange.ai on our slide. And that comes to the end of this segment of the presentation. For more information about the topics covered here, the themes and color scheme, you can refer to our Spotfire user guide with the link here. Today's content is also posted on the community wiki. I provided the link down here.